I don't want to talk too much about election day, but it does have a little bit to do with what I'm going to talk about today. I had a relative call me, well, a few days ago to inform me and list all the reasons why he voted for who he voted for. I told him, you don't have to tell me. Why are you justifying telling me why you voted? My answer was, my government is not of this age, this world. If it was, then I would vote. And of course, people who don't read scripture, that would just go right over their head. But I hope it didn't go over yours. As I pointed out probably about a year ago in one of my videos, that the Democrat-Republican form of government is in origin Greek and Roman. Greece occupied the Holy Land, thereby making it a part of the great image in Daniel's dream that's going to be absolutely abolished and destroyed. And of course, Rome, also one of the founders of the Democrat-Republican form of government. And of course, Rome being the one that destroyed the Holy Land, destroyed the Eretz. And Rome, like Babylon, is going to be made an example out of, as I pointed out in the last video, for destroying the Eretz. Even go as far as calling the leader or leaders of Rome Lucifer. How art thou fallen from heaven? So why in the world would I participate in a system designed by governments that occupied and destroyed the land that I love? Zion. I would not. Now, the Democrat-Republican form of government that is in the United States today is at best schizophrenic. On one side of that one issue one day, and on the other side of that same issue another day. Concerning Israel and the Holy Land is no exception. So this puts Israel in danger. This schizophrenic form of government. You'll have one president trying to put the Palestinians on equal footing with Israel, and then you have another one who thinks differently of it. And they will use Israel and the Arabs against each other as a political football, as a means to gain power within the United States of America. Now, it's not just Israel they do this with. I'm going to get started with an article. This article is by Seth Frantzman, and he posted on the Jerusalem Post. On October 29th, is Turkey awaiting U.S. election to threaten Israel? Analysis. He has made some very good points here, and I think everybody should check this article out. Turkey has been threatening many countries in recent months, but noticeably absent from the incitement campaign that Ankara tends to run against Greece, Armenia, France, and others is Israel. This is not because Turkey's ruling party likes Israel. Indeed, Turkey is one of the most hostile countries in the world to Israel. Turkey's president has hosted Hamas terrorists twice this year and has compared Israel to the Nazis and has threatened to break off relations with the UAE after the Gulf state and Israel signed a normalization deal. Now think about this for a minute. I'll continue and then we'll go over this. So why has Turkish President Erdogan and his leadership in Ankara been relatively silent on Israel recently? It appears that Turkey has been wary of provoking a crisis with Israel because of strong support from the Trump administration. Now, folks, you got to understand that Turkey is a part of the Gog and Magog alliance in Ezekiel 38 and 39. Any country that knows anything about Ezekiel 38 and 39 should know that they should have no dealings with any nation listed in Ezekiel 38 and 39. Period. When the U.S. president took office, Turkey reached out to his team. Turkey believed that the Obama administration policies in Syria were wrong. Please listen carefully, folks. And had accused the U.S. of working with the Kurdistan Workers' Party terrorists. However, Turkey lost out when Trump's first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, left his job in the first few weeks of the presidency. It next turned its attention to the State Department and to Syria envoy James Jeffrey. Erdogan also became the world leader with whom Trump appeared to speak with more frequently. And not only that, he praised that crazy man a lot. Ankara was pleased when its security forces at its embassy in Washington were able to attack U.S. protesters in 2017 without repercussions. That says a lot, doesn't it? About who bosses who around. However, Turkey was so drunk on success, having got the U.S. to leave part of Syria in October 2019, so it could attack U.S. Kurdish partner forces, that it didn't expect Washington to help Israel as much as it did. Yes, they thought they had the Trump administration over the barrel because the Trump administration was pretty much doing whatever Erdogan told him to do. Ankara was outraged by the U.S. decision to recognize Jerusalem and also by Israel's new relations with the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Why is that? Well, because, you see, Erdogan is hoping to become the caliph-in-chief of all the whole Muslim world, you see. And of course, this little deal, peace deal, kind of throws a monkey wrench into the aspirations of the would-be caliph. Turkey's ruling party is an enemy of the UAE and Saudi Arabia as well as the government of Egypt. This has set up a collision course with Israel that dates back more than 10 years to the 2009 war in Gaza and the subsequent Mavi Marmara incident where Israel raided a ship carrying Turkish activists to Gaza. Turkey has bashed Israel since then and has increasingly worked with Hamas. Folks, don't forget, Erdogan lately, like the last couple of weeks, has been claiming that he's going to lead a charge to retake Jerusalem from Israel. Now, you know, folks, if, or I should say when he goes and attempts to do that, nobody should be taken by surprise because he's already telegraphed his intentions. However, the Trump presidency appeared to tone down Ankara's rhetoric a bit because Turkey's currency is sliding and it cannot afford another crisis with the U.S. Turkey already has crises with Syria, Iraq, Greece, France, Libya, and Armenia, and other countries having launched invasions and using its army and neighbor to bully neighbors. Now, for a brief moment, let's go back to the headline. Is Turkey awaiting U.S. election to threaten Israel? When would be the best time to threaten Israel? One might ask. Well, when you have an election where it appears that as we get closer and closer to January the 1st, it's starting to look like maybe possibility nobody's going to get to 270 electoral votes, maybe. Of course, that would put the presidency in the hands of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, right? Well, we'll continue to read. In recent months, Turkey began to use rhetoric to claim that Jerusalem is ours and it would liberate Al-Aqsa. This indicates that Turkey is laying the groundwork for a renewed push against Jerusalem, but you see, the Christian world today, especially in the United States, but around the world, is not paying attention to Turkey. It wants to fund groups in East Jerusalem and seeks to undermine Israel's role, potentially inciting violence or extremism in Gaza or Judea and Samaria to push its Hamas ally. But Turkey appears to be holding off until after the U.S. election to see what his options are, of course. And right now, his options are looking pretty good. While the Democrats and the Republicans are fighting against each other, not paying attention to what's going on around the world as they should, Ankara has sunk its support into Trump, bashing Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. Do you remember why? Does any of you remember why? Remember who was in the White House during the attempted coup against President Erdogan? Folks, we know who was behind the coup attempt. Let's not be fools here. Bashing Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. So Turkey is in a terrible quandary. He's upset with the Trump administration for, in his mind, Erdogan's mind, double-crossing him concerning Jerusalem and Israel and the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and all these other countries making quote-unquote peace with Israel. Because that undermines his goals as the new caliph of the Middle East. Ankara also knows that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has tired of Turkey's work with Russia on S-400s, its cooperation with Iran, and its threats to Israel and Greece. So, question is, while the United States is embroiled in political upheaval, do you think that the president of Turkey is just going to sit there and watch? Well, Seth Fransman doesn't think so. will, says Franzman's analysis, bear out to be true. I doubt if it's going to take very long to find out. And don't forget, if Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi become president, they're going to go back to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which Israel absolutely cannot afford. Middle East Eye. If Biden wins, Israel could be forced to take action against Iran, says Israeli Minister Saki Hanegbi says confrontation with Iran on the cards if Donald Trump's maximum pressure approach dropped. Yes, unfortunately, it appears that way. Why is it, do you think, that the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, wants F-35 so badly? Now, initially, to protect themselves from Iran, but I would urge everyone to read Joel 3. The Saudis and the United Arab Emirates might think that that's the reason why they want the F-35s, but you see, it is written, let the weak say, I am strong. Then, of course, President Trump is now promised to sell F-22s to Israel, yet the F-22s have not been in production for 10 years. And who knows how many years it would take to get them in production again. And I don't think that the United States is going to sell Israel any of its current fleet of F-22s. So at the same time, one has to wonder what's really going on. Is the political upheaval that is in the United States, is that going to provoke political upheaval around the world? Well, with all the bribery, money laundering, compromising videos by certain parties of the U.S. elections, probably so. Apparently there's a lot at stake, and a lot of people don't know the gravity of how compromised U.S. political officials are by foreigners like China and Ukraine and Turkey. I've talked about Turkey, how Turkey has compromised the Trump administration. So one would have to ask a question. The way that the Trump administration behaved with Turkey concerning the Kurds and demonstrators inside the United States being beaten up by Erdogan's bodyguards. If I were Israel, I would not look to the Trump administration at this point in time right now to help defend you against Turkey. Because there are some officials that are in the Trump administration that have been compromised by Turkey. It has already been exposed. Is it to the level that members of the Biden team being compromised by the Chinese? Probably not, but compromised nevertheless. This democratic form of government was started by the Greeks and the Romans. Folks, if you are a believer in the kingdom that's coming in Zion, then you should have absolutely nothing to do with this Greek-Roman form of government. Let us not forget who it was that ordered the destruction of Jerusalem. It was Caligula. Caligula, he was the one that Paul was talking about in 1 Thessalonians 2, I think. Might be 2 Thessalonians 2. Yeah. All right. We're going to go to a different version because our master is not Lord Jesus Christ. It is Master Yehoshua Moshiach. Okay? So, that's version Aramaic, plain English. We beg of you, my brethren, concerning the arrival of our Master Yehoshua the Messiah, and concerning our assembling unto him, that you should not be soon shaken in minds, neither be troubled, either by word nor by spirit, neither as from an epistle, as if from us, namely that, behold, the quote, behold, the day of the Master has arrived, because he's saying no, not true, because something else must happen first. Let no man deceive you by any means, to the effects that surely, and he says no revolt will first come, and that man of sin, the son of destruction, be revealed. What revolt is he talking about? The Jewish revolt. The Jewish revolt against Rome is not going to come until that man of sin comes first. Who was he? He was Caligula, the son of destruction, be revealed, who opposes and exalts himself against everything that is called a deity and a religion, and he will sit in the temple of Yehovah as a god. How would he do this? Well, after he got sick and then became well, the devil overtook him, possessed him, and he ordered every synagogue in the realm of Rome, including the temple in Jerusalem, to be inhabited by a statue, an idol, a graven image of himself being Jupiter, aka Zeus, the same Zeus that is Deus on the Trinity. And showing himself that he is Zeus or God. You see, do you not remember when I was with you, I told you these things? Why are you forgetting? Well, I guess nobody listens. And you know what controls that he may be revealed in his time. Now he says the mystery of evil has now begun to work. It starts right now, Paul said. Not off in the future and way, way late at the end like Cyril said, like Jerry Falwell said, like John Hagee says, like all of your preachers claim, they're all wrong. Paul said it is starting right now. But they didn't listen to Paul. Who was Caesar in those days? Does anybody want to take a wild guess? Let's go and find the place where the people use the term Antichrist. And since John was a Hebrew, and the people who he was speaking to in his epistle were Hebrews, he would not have said Antichrist. It would have been clearly the word Moshiach would have been the word he was using. First John 2 verse 18. People do not understand what John was talking about here, but I'm going to make it easy for you to understand here. Now, let's see here. Little children, it is the last hour. Not the last time, the last hour. The last hour for who? Jerusalem. John knew. Yohanan knew that Jerusalem was about to get laid waste because of what one person did. One person set this in motion. It is the last hour. As you have heard that anti-Messiah, not Antichrist, shall come. But now there are many of them. This is how we know that it is the last hour. Okay? Let us look at... I want to see what Aramaic version says. My children, it is an end time, and according to what you have heard, that the false Messiah comes. Who was he talking about? He was talking about the one that Paul was talking about. The one who declared himself to be a god. The one who would cause the Jewish revolt. You see, you saw something in the Aramaic version in 2 Thessalonians 2 that you would not have seen in King James. The revolt. You see, the King James says falling away. Well, I think I ought to go back to it. 2 Thessalonians 2, just to refresh everyone's memory. And then we go to Aramaic. Let no man deceive you by any means, to the effect that surely no revolt will take place, and that man of sin, the son of perdition, be revealed. Now, so he uses the word revolt. Why? Because if you go to Strong's Concordance, that's exactly what it means. All right, so we go and look in King James Version. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day, or I should say, except to go revolt. 646, apostasia means revolt, defection. What did the Jews do when Caligula, the man of sin, the son of perdition, tried to place the idol of Zeus, with himself being the graven image, in every synagogue and in the temple in Jerusalem? What did the Jews do? They revolted. They defected. But you want to use your favorite preacher's narrative. But your favorite preacher's narrative is false, folks. You see, because that dragon, that old serpent who deceives the whole world, that phrase means that every popular narrative that you hear is wrong. That's what that scripture means. That old serpent that deceiveth the whole world. That's in Revelation 12. Christianity is the largest religion that I know of in the entire world. So if the serpent deceives everyone except for the Christians, then that statement in Revelation 12 would be false. But John said that anyone who adds or subtracts from his statements in Revelation 12 would be cursed. Did he not? So I say every Christian narrative is false, based upon what Yehovah said in Revelation 12. You see, my opinion about it would agree with Yehovah, but you Christians who believe that what is it? More than a quarter of the world's population is right? No, you're wrong. It can't be right. The Christian's narrative cannot be right if Yehovah is right. No popular Christian narrative is right concerning 2 Thessalonians 2. But if you are to read history, in fact, you can go to YouTube and have some narrator tell you about Caligula. There were times when people did believe that he was the man of sin. But then Cyril came along. And deceived everybody. Cyril, the servant of Satan. He opposed and exalted himself above all that is called a god or that is worshipped, so that he as a god sits in the temple of Yehovah. I've done like 5 or 6 videos in the past year about Caligula and what he did to fulfill the exact words of Paul in 2 Thessalonians 2. Yet, Christianity today, in their haughtiness, in their vanity, refuse to acknowledge. History proves that Paul was right. Now, he says, for the mystery of iniquity already is in place. Does anyone know when Caligula reigned over the Roman Empire? Let's look. Let's look it up. (37 to 41). That's right. In the days of Paul and Johannan. Now, interestingly enough, this is something that my dad might want to know about. His parents were Germanicus and Agrippina. Now, Agrippina was a vile, vile woman. Now, Germanicus was somebody that many of the people loved, but according to history, she was poisoned by this foul, evil woman, Agrippina. Now, Germanicus came from the Rhine, which is why he was called Germanicus. Caligula, yes, a Roman, yes, a German. Just a little information out there for you. To my dad. Once again. So this time what I'm going to do is go to King James Version. Little children, it is the last. Here's what I should do. What I'm going to do is go look at all the different versions here. I'll look at this one first. Little children is the last time, and you have heard that anti-Messiah shall come. Even now, are there many anti-Messiahs? You know why? Caligula, he stayed in power for 3 years. Then another one was in for 8 months. Another one was in for a year. And then Vespasian. It was Vespasian who sent the prince of the people, as we read in Daniel 9 and verse 27, to destroy the city. And the prince of the people, Titus, one of his last acts was to put the idol of Jupiter, aka Zeus, at the corner of where the temple once was. Now, so he's saying this, and this you Christians need to be extremely worried about, because John speaks of things that went way over the heads of the people he was talking to at the time. He was speaking at current events, and then he was speaking in later events. They went out from us because they were not of us, for if they had been of us, they would have no doubt have continued with us. But they went out that they might be made manifest that they were not of all of us. Now, Paul says, interestingly enough, the same thing. The same thing. So it starts with Caligula and company, many anti-messiahs, and it goes all the way to the very bitter end. Exactly like John said. I'll read it here. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a revolt, and that man of sin be revealed. And as we see in the words of John, John said that the revolt is not going to happen until that anti-Messiah comes. Well, it happened because anti-Messiah came and he said that he was already here. Many of them were already there. That's exactly right. There were like four Caesars in less than 4 years. Exactly. The son of destruction, who opposed and exalts himself above all that is called God or worshipped, so that he sits as a god, and he sits in the temple of Yehovah, claiming that he is a god. Don't you remember when I was with you and I told you these things, and now you know what withholds that he might be revealed in his time, and he was revealed. Everybody knows he was a madman, like his predecessor Antiochus IV, possessed with the same demon spirit. For the mystery of iniquity is already working. Only he who now lets will let until he be taken out of the way. Well, who was he that was taken out of the way? He was Tiberius. Tiberius was the one who was standing in the way. You see. Oh, you didn't know? Well, now you know. Once Tiberius died, and rumors have it that Caligula smothered the old man. That's how he was taken out of the way, it appears. Then shall that wicked, lawless be revealed. Was Caligula lawless? Go look up a YouTube video on him and you tell me. Whom the master will consume with the spirit. So now it's projecting off into the future. Why? Because everyone who continues after Caligula sits on the throne of Satan from that point. So at the time of the end, when Messiah does in fact come, the man who sits on the throne in Rome will be viewed as Caligula, will be treated like Caligula, the man of sin, and shall destroy with the brightness of coming, even whose coming is after the working of Satan with power and signs and lying wonders, like the great heavenly fire. When do they claim it happens? I think they claim it happens at Christmas time and at their so-called Easter event too. One of the two, the Orthodox people, Orthodox Christians have that lying wonder. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that destroy. That would be the Romans. Why are they going to be destroyed? Because they received not the love for the truth, that they might be saved. Paul was talking about the Roman church that he was warning in the entire epistle of Romans, especially Romans 11. And to this day, I can quote Romans 11 and verse 26 to Christians, and they will not believe it. To this day. They will sit there and try to undermine what Paul said instead of saying, you know what? Paul is right. Why couldn't they read the entire chapter of Romans 11 and say, you know what? Paul is right. They won't do it. It is, Romans 11 is Christianity's kryptonite. the thing that's going to destroy Christianity is the truth that Paul spoke in Romans 11, and Paul speaks about it right here. With all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth. Paul warned the Romans in Romans 11 about their wrong attitude toward Israel, towards the Jews, and warned them, the Romans, that if they boasted against the Jews, then they boasted against the root of Jesse, and that if they did that, they would be cut off, and that Israel would be grafted back in. Well, guess what, folks? Since the Romans did not listen to Paul, the Romans are going to be cut off, root and branch, beginning with that man who sits on Caligula's throne at the Vatican. For this reason, Yehovah shall send them strong delusion, and you wonder why. We are in the state we are in. Well, I better not put myself in that category, because there's no we in this equation, because I'm not a part of it. I'm speaking of Americans, but not just Americans. I'm talking about the British, the Europeans, the Russians, etc. Shall send them strong delusion so that they should believe a lie. If they're not going to believe the truth, then he's going to hand them over to the lie. Who is the father of lies? Satan. That they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. They'll never see it coming. They'll never see it coming, folks. But if you were paying attention, if you were watching, instead of getting embroiled in this Romanish electoral nonsense, you will know when it's coming. I believe that with all of my heart. If you're going to have yourself invested in the Romanish government, the Romanish way of government, you will not be ready for the king in Zion. You will not be ready for him. In fact, you will come and fight against him. Why? Because you are invested in the lie rather than the truth. You are invested in the Romanish government, the one that destroyed the Eretz. I believe it was talking about in, we'll just look up Lucifer. Isaiah 14. The destruction of Babylon. Speaking to the people of Israel, for Yehovah will have mercy on Jacob, will again choose Israel, and will set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be grafted in among them, like Ruth, like Rahab, and they will, that's me. Yeah, I'm a Zionist, folks. It doesn't matter how little Jewish blood I have in me, I am a Zionist. I will cleave to the house of Jacob. Let the whole world hear, let the heights of heaven hear, and let all that is on the earth hear me say, I stand with Zion, and I will cleave to the house of Israel in that day. And the Gentiles will take them and bring them, Israel, back to their own place, and the house of Israel shall possess them, the Gentiles, in the land of Yehovah for servants and maidservants. And they will take them captives whose captives they were, and they will rule over their oppressors. That means they will rule over Rome or Babylon or anyone who was their oppressor. Anyone who was their oppressor is Babylon, you see. And it shall come to pass in the day that Yehovah shall give you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and from the hard bondage where you were made to serve. And you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and you will say, how has the oppressor ceased and the golden city ceased? Yehovah has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of rulers. Not just Babylon. All them who ruled over. Read Daniel 2, and you will see all the nations that Israel is going to rule over. He smote the Gentiles in wrath with a continual stroke. He ruled the Gentiles in anger and persecuted them, or he wreaked vengeance upon them, and none can stop him. Now the Eretz is at rest and is quiet, and it breaks forth with singing. Even the fir trees rejoice at you, Babylon, and the cedars of Lebanon. Hell from beneath is moved for you to meet you at your coming. Figure of speech, of course. It stirs up the dead for you, even all the chief ones of the earth it has raised up from their thrones, and all the kings of the Gentiles. And they shall speak unto you, saying, are you become weak, dead, like we are? Your pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of your vials. Your worm is spread up under you, and the worms, the maggots, cover you. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the dawn? How are you cut down to the ground, who did weaken the Gentiles, who deceived the whole world? For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into the sky, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yehovah. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the clouds and be equal, as I pointed out in the last video, equal be equal, to be like, resemble, alike, compared, equal with the Most High. Who says they are equal with the Most High? Well, Yehoshua says, my Father is greater than I, but Jesus says he is equal with the Father. Think on that for a minute. You will be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, cistern. Cistern? Probably the great sea. They that see you will narrowly look upon you and consider you, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble and did shake kingdoms? Yes, he was. The man at the Vatican most certainly was. That made the world as a desert and destroyed the cities, and that refused to let out his prisoners. All the kings of the Gentiles, even all of them in glory, everyone in his own house. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch. Yes, the Roman branch is going to be broken off. Because shortly after Paul's death, they did what Paul warned the Romans not to do. And as the clothing of those that are slain thrust through with a sword that go down the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden underfoot. Why is this man's carcass going to be trampled? Because they trampled Jerusalem for an entire 3.5 years in the days of Jerusalem's destruction between when the war started in 67 and ended in 74. You're not going to be joined with them at burial because you have destroyed not your land, but the Eretz. That's the land of Israel. And you slain not your people, you slew the people of Israel, the Jews. And because of this, the seed of evildoers will be forever. Prepare to slaughter for his children. Whose children? Caligula's. That means generations later, because of what Caligula ordered, because of what Vespasian marched his son Titus out to do, the Roman children in the last days are going to be prepared for the slaughter because of the iniquities of their fathers. You claim, as I pointed out in the last video, you Roman Christians, you claim you are exempt from that. No, you are not. You are not exempt from that. Why? Because you rejected the truth and chose the lie. You chose all the lies and rejected all the truth that was written in Romans 11. And because of that, the words that Paul wrote in 2 Thessalonians 2, that they all might be damned who hated the truth and had pleasure in the lies. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of the fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the Eretz, nor fill the faces of the world with cities. This right here, Isaiah 14 and verse 21, listen to me carefully. Spells destruction on Western civilization. Daniel 2 backs it up. Let's go look at Daniel 2. Verse 31, you, O king, saw and beheld a great image. Its image, his brightness was excellent, stood before you. Its form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass. So, as we know, the head of gold was the king, as Daniel pointed out in this particular dream. It was King Nebuchadnezzar. The breast and arms of silver, that was the Medo-Persian Empire. The belly and thighs of brass, that was the Grecian Empire. And the legs of iron and the feet, part of iron and part of clay, was the Roman Empire. That whole thing is going to be crashed to the ground. There is going to be no place for those people to live. All of the children, the descendants of this particular image, will have no place to live. All of them will be forced to be the handmaids and the manservants of the people of Israel when Yehoshua the king, Yehoshua the prince, and Yehovah the king come to Jerusalem. You see, it's not just Rome. It's the whole image. It says right here, you saw till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon its head? No, upon its feet. That is the last generation. So he's not going to yank Caligula out of his grave to smash him on the head. He's not going to yank Nebuchadnezzar out of the grave to smash him on the head. No. The ones that are still alive, their children, the 10 toes. That's what the stone is going to strike, and the whole thing is going to come crashing down to the ground and broken in pieces, and they become like chaff in the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, and there was no place found for them. In other words, when that period of time comes, there's going to be so many displaced people, many will die, and those that are left, which will be a vast minority, will have to be manservants and maidservants for the people of Israel. The shoe must now be on the other foot. Vengeance is mine, saith Yehovah, and he will repay. To the letter. He will repay in full. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain. So what is that stone? That stone is Mount Zion. And filled the whole land. There's no escaping, oh Christians. Because your religion is all of Rome. It is not. It is not what you think it is. See, Latin Trinity. You see this? This is the same as this. As I pointed out several times already, Deus is Zeus. Zeus and Deus is Satan. He believes he is equal with the Father. He believes he is equal with the Son. He believes he is equal with the Holy Spirit. Tell me which Christian religion does not follow the Trinity, the satanic Trinity. Isaiah 14, down into the dirt with the maggots, this will go. And you are invested in the Roman-style government? I sure hope not.